ноги, походу.
A Russian war correspondent narrowly escaped death after being struck by an FPV drone. Take a close look at his gear. This journalist is dressed more like a special forces operative, complete with full tactical gear and even a mask. From air, there's no way to tell him apart from a soldier.
Нет, ноги, походу.
I'm fine. The doctors just checked the wound again. They are bandaging it, disinfecting and wrapping it up. Everything will be all right. I'll heal a bit, and most likely, I'll come back here. Everything will be fine. We will win.
Law enforcement officers of Ukraine and Moldova conducted a special operation during which they detained 3 mercenaries of the Wagner PMC and other illegal armed groups. More than 200 law enforcement officers from both countries took part in the operation called Avenger, with the assistance of, among others, the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine and Europol. It is reported that the 3 detained Moldovan citizens had taken part in the battle for the Donetsk airport, the capture of Bakhmut, and the creation of the Debaltsev Cauldron as part of the Wagner PMC, the Somalia Battalion, and other armed groups of the so-called Donetsk People's Republic and Russia from 2014 to 2023. During the first stage of the operation, more than 50 searches were conducted at the residences and places of registration of the suspects. As a result, documents, computer equipment, and mobile phones with information on recruitment, conditions of service in the Wagner PMC, and confirming the participation of the defendants in hostilities in Ukraine were seized. The Moldovan police investigators served the 3 suspects with a notice of suspicion of participation in an armed conflict, military or other violent acts aimed at overthrowing or undermining the constitutional order or violating the territorial integrity of the state of the Criminal Code of the Republic of Moldova. The suspects face up to 10 years in prison. The National Police of Ukraine noted that those were only the first of 85 identified Moldovan citizens who had participated in the war on the side of Russia. The law enforcement officers are documenting all the facts of their recruitment, training, financing, and use in hostilities against Ukraine. Their data has already been forwarded to the competent law enforcement agencies of Moldova, where a series of pre-trial investigations have been launched against them. We have already sent a report and our conclusions to European law enforcement agencies that we need to urgently create an international database of mercenaries and together counter this dangerous phenomenon, said Ivan Vihivsky, head of the National Police of Ukraine. Ukraine has mapped a plan for the deployment of allied forces to deter Russian aggression after the ceasefire. Ukrainska Pravda reported on this. The statement was made by President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelenskyy during a panel on strategic investment, the future of U.S.-Ukraine security cooperation. The head of state has already discussed the issue of peacekeepers with the presidents of the United States and France, as well as the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Our military has already done its homework, and I have not yet shared it with our allies. But we already have a map with the number and types of troops of our partners where they should be on the territory of Ukraine, Zelenskyy said. He believes that this issue should be considered together, without dividing Europe and the United States. Zelenskyy added that if NATO is not available to Ukraine, he would like to have such an army. In addition, in his opinion, such an army would be larger than other alliances. Speaking at the annual International Security Conference in Munich, President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelenskyy stated that in order to defend our country against Russia without NATO, the army of our country should have 1.5 million soldiers. This is due to the number of Russian troops, which has already reached the authorized strength of 1.5 million soldiers, and the total number of soldiers is up to 2,389,000. As part of this deployment, 2 new military districts were created, Moscow and Leningrad. The aggressor also plans to deploy troops in Karelia in the form of a corps, create 3 motorized rifle divisions as part of the ground forces and 2 divisions of the Russian airborne troops. They have 220 and we have 110 combat brigades today. So we need 220, Zelenskyy said. Zelenskyy estimated Ukraine's annual security budget without NATO at $40 billion a year. If the army is increased to 1.5 million, the funding should be about $60 billion. German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius slams J.D. Vance's speech as undemocratic and calls it not acceptable. Here in Germany, we fight for your right to disagree against us, Pistorius said.
This is why I cannot just ignore what we heard before. I cannot not comment on the speech we heard by the US Vice President. We fight for your right to be against us. That is the motto, one of the mottos of the Bundeswehr, and it stands for our democracy. This democracy that was just called into question by the US Vice President, and not just the German democracy, but Europe as a whole. He spoke of the annulment of democracy, and if I understood him correctly, he compares the condition of Europe with the condition that prevails in some authoritarian regimes. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not acceptable. This is not acceptable. This is not the Europe, not the democracy where I live and where I conduct my election campaign right now. And this is not the democracy that I witness every day in our parliament. In our democracy, every opinion has a voice. And it makes it possible for parties that are partly extremist, such as the AfD, and they can campaign just as any other party. This is democracy. And if the Vice President had the opportunity to switch on his TV set when he arrived yesterday, he would have seen one of those candidates in primetime TV. By the way, we even admit media that spread Russian propaganda, and the representatives of the federal government answer their questions. Nobody is excluded.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comment section. The membership link is in the description.
Rescues every day. We had a guy last week at 6 rescues in 6 days. You know, he's doing the job every day.